Hello and welcome to Marketing Principles Module 3 Study Session 1. My name is Oladipupo Ajeyalemi and I will take you today in distribution strategy. The position of place or distribution in any organization is very critical to the success of the company. In building up a distribution system, the company invests a lot of resources in terms of finance and human capital. This is so because if after production the products do not get to the consumer, the essence of being in business is defeated. Distribution channel is paramount to all manufacturing organizations because it is their route to market and to the heart of the final consumer. At the end of Module 3 Study Session 1, you will be able to define and correctly use all of the keywords written in bold. You will also be able to define distribution strategy and terminologies used in distribution process. You will also be able to discuss levels of channels of distribution, as well as enumerate the development of distribution channels. You should also be able to discuss linkage for physical distribution, as well as discussing channel conflicts, causes of conflicts, and their resolution. Now let's look at some of the important terminology in the distribution strategy. The first one is distribution. What is distribution? Distribution is the movement of finished goods from the producer's warehouse to the final consumer. This is also done by using intermediaries. Intermediaries are the middlemen that help the producer in moving these goods to the final consumer. Now, the channel is the system comprising of all the members who assist in the movement of those goods, of those finished goods, to the final consumer. Now, along the channel, we have people called wholesalers who take large quantities of the finished goods from the producer and store them and later sell them off in smaller quantities to the people we call the retailers. The retailers buy the smaller quantities from the wholesalers and then in turn resell them in single units to the final consumer. Now, we also have a term called exclusive distribution. Exclusive distribution occurs where a wholesaler is given charge of an entire area to be the only person distributing that product in that area. Now, let's examine some of the levels in the distribution channel. The first level we have is what we call the zero level. The zero level consists of the manufacturer and the consumer alone. There are no middlemen in the zero level. A good example of a zero level distribution is your regular booker, where the producer, who is the woman cooking the food, sells directly to the consumer without the use of any middlemen. The second level in our distribution channel is level 1, which consists of the manufacturer, the retailer, and the consumer. Now, this is where the producer sells in small quantities to the retailer, who in turn distributes in single units to the consumer. A good example of this is your newspaper, where the producer or the publisher will give the newspapers in smaller quantities to the retailer, who sells directly to the consumer. Now, the third level is called level 2, and it consists of the manufacturer, the wholesaler, the retailer, and the consumer. This is more common amongst fast-moving consumer goods, such as your Bonvita and your Milo, whereas the manufacturer sells in large quantities to the wholesaler, who stores them and sells in smaller quantities to the retailer, and from there to the consumer. Now, the fourth level is called level 3, and it introduces an agent into the mix. Who is the agent? The agent is a player who doesn't take any physical handling of the product. All he does is to connect the members in the distribution channel. Now, let's examine some of the activities performed by the levels. The first activity is market intelligence information, which is a situation where members in the channel can do some marketing research and get to know what the customer really wants, and then pass this across to the producer in order to improve the product. The second activity It's called information and awareness. Now, along the distribution channel, each member is expected to do some marketing, some promotion of the product in order to get the customers to be aware of the product and to buy the product. Now, the third activity performed is called specialist advice. Now, a wholesaler may not only be selling one company's product and may have a lot of experience in selling that product category, and so can offer the producer specialist advice based on experience on how best to produce the product. The fourth activity is negotiation. Now, it is expected that as the product moves from one member of the channel to the other, each member will add his own margin, his own profit margin. So there's a lot of negotiation that goes in place to ensure that at the end of the day, when the product reaches the consumer, it is not unnecessarily expensive. The sixth activity is called proper delivery. Now, each member of the channel has a responsibility to ensure that the product is properly delivered from his possession to the next member's possession. The seventh activity is funding. Now, this is also very common, where sometimes the producer, in order to get the retailer to take on his product, may give the retailer some of the products on credit, thereby funding the retailer to be able to sell off the product. This also occurs where the retailer, in cases of high demand, may be willing to part with some of his profits to the producer in order for the producer to produce more products. Now, the last activity performed by the levels is sharing risk. At each point, every member of the channel has to share some risk because he is in physical possession of the product. For instance, the product may be exposed to fire, and then there's always the risk of non-purchase by the consumer. Now, let's look at some of the factors that determine the choice of the marketing channel. The first one is distribution policy. This is the policy enacted by the producer on how he chooses to distribute his product. The decision solely rests with the producer, and the other members of the channel may not have any input in the policy. Another factor that will determine choice of marketing channel is product characteristics. For instance, a fast-moving consumer good may require the use of a wholesaler and a retailer, because if the producer decides to market it solely by himself, he may not be able to cover a large enough area in order to make profits. Market characteristics also go a long way in determining the choice of your marketing channel. For instance, if your targeted consumer is very far away from the production, the factory, then definitely you may need to break up the channel into wholesaler and retailer. Also, in a situation where your final consumer, is difficult to reach, or is in a place that may not be accessible to the producer, then you need to break up the marketing channel. The last factor is the cost of channel usage. Definitely, if it is going to be too expensive for you to use a wholesaler and a retailer, you may choose to leave out the wholesaler and go directly to the retailer. Also, if it may be cheaper for you to use a wholesaler, then it depends on whatever the cost will be at the end of the day. Now, let's look at some of the linkages for physical distribution. The first one is road. That is by lorries or trailers that move goods from one location to the other. The second one is rail. That's your train. Then we also have waterways, the air, and pipeline. Now, pipeline is used to move oil products and gas products like we do here in Nigeria. Now, let's examine some of the causes of conflicts and how they are resolved. The first cause of let's look at the types of conflict. The first type of conflict we have is vertical conflict, which is conflict between members on different levels of the channel. For instance, the producer may have a conflict or a disagreement with the wholesaler, or the wholesaler may have a disagreement with the retailer. Once they are on different levels, then we have vertical conflict. Horizontal conflict, on the other hand, is conflict between members on the same level of the channel. For instance, two retailers may have a disagreement, and that will lead to some conflict. Now, let's look at some of the causes of conflict. The first cause is goal conflict. Everybody is a part of this channel for one reason or the other. Now, their goals may not necessarily align, and this may cause some conflict. Another cause of conflict is sales margin. This happens where members on the channel do not meet their sales margin commitments, and this may cause other members to have some issues. The last one is sales effort. Now, this occurs where one member of the channel is not making the adequate effort to drive sales, or where one member of the channel feels he is making more effort or taking on more of an effort than other members, and this may cause conflict. Now, I believe we have learned a lot about distribution strategy, and I think it's time for us to take on an activity. So pick up any product close to you and design the best strategy that you think may be best suited for that product. Thank you for listening.